Hey there, submarine fans. This is Eric from the subvet.com. You're listening to the Subvets podcast.
Welcome aboard. It is the Subvets podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Eric.
And we have with us today a fast tack sailor. All you people have been griping about the fact that we're just a bunch of old boomer sailors here. So we went and found one.
Talking a bunch of nonsense.
One. What's that? Gives a grand total of two now that have had the cojones to stand up and say, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, Lieutenant Commander Anderson.
You know those fast tack guys are. A lot of talk, but when it comes down right down to it, they're too busy out doing stuff. Unlike us.
Maybe that's what it is.
90 days.
Yeah, that op tempo, man. They ain't got no time to be podcasting with us.
You know what they say? You can call me a bleep, but call me at home.
They're all playing that video game, Cold Waters, because they can't get enough of it. They get out of the Navy, boom, they're playing Cold Waters.
Now, in fairness, I do that too. So, in fact, I was doing that day before yesterday. I was experimenting with some things, having some fun. Jesse Chaney is a Sonar Technician Chief. Jesse lives in Grand Junction, Colorado. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Hey, glad to be here as well.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some career highlights, or if you want, and understand we're going to get into some other stuff as well. But that's the USS Toledo behind you if you're watching the video, right?
Yeah, that's the Toledo. So just like everyone else, started my Navy career. I had a good mentor, my Uncle Marty, said, hey, you'd be a perfect guy to be on submarines. And so I went into the MEPS and told the guys, I said, I want to be a submarine.
Your uncle, is it a stop? Is it did you say Uncle Marty?
Uncle Marty.
As in Lieutenant Marty?
Lieutenant Martin Bauer.
Okay. So Marty Bauer's in the Navy. He was a missile tech with me, later became an officer. But I didn't know he was your uncle.
He is.
So just a little tale real quick, Dave. And Marty reminded, and then when I saw Jesse's pitch, I'm like, I do remember him, even though I don't remember much of the 90s because of all the drinking. But we had these legendary parties down there, down at my house and a couple other guys' houses. And he came up, Marty didn't drink, but he came up with it. So he saw a bunch of us crazy sailors, doing our thing. And so Marty's your actual uncle, and he talks you into the Navy.
I don't think he talked me so much into the Navy as kind of guided me along on the path I should take. So he actually took me out when he was stationed in Virginia, took me out to the USS Montpelier. I kind of got the first class tour of being able to walk around and talk to all the different race, and said, you know what, Sonar Tech School is going to be what I'm going to do. And sure enough, once I got to sub school, chose Sonar Tech, and sure enough, here I am.
Off to the races.
I did that. I chose Sonar Tech in basic training, and they said, no, you're going to be an FTB. Yeah. It's the Navy.
So right. So after that, I reported to the Toledo, did a couple of CENTCOM deployments there, qualified sonar supervisor, chief of watch, third class, all the great accolades that you can rack up there, and went off to recruiting duty in Louisville, Kentucky. Was a classifier back there right where I was sitting when I chose to be a Sonar Tech. And then reported to the USS Houston. There I made chief, and then after that went to Submarine Squadron 11 and worked at PMT doing the performance monitoring team for all the squadron boats there. And then after that, got out.
So back up just a second there, because during the pregame warm-up, Eric was confused about what CENTCOM meant. You did 2 CENTCOM deployments, so you're going to have to explain that to him.
So that's the Central Command area. So that would be pretty much like the Gulf of Oman, the Gulf of, the Persian Gulf and everything on over there.
So when were you over there?
I was over there from 2004. We did 2 deployments of 2004 to 2006, right there in the middle of the Operation Iraqi Freedom and everything.
So that's when we're getting into the action, huh? So you guys, did you guys have well, I would say your squadron probably had a heavy op tempo at that time, huh?
I think everybody just pretty much says had a heavy op tempo. We were Submarine Squadron 12, so we're a development squadron, so we kind of get a special loadout of equipment occasionally to test. But from there, we're a 688I, so for you boomer sailors, that means that we had the VLS tubes, the capability to launch Tomahawk missiles, and so that's our primary reason for going out in that area.
Did some of those Tomahawks may or may not left your boat?
May or may not have.
Man, that must have been a cool may or may not have experience. That's what I'm saying. You got a picture behind you. It's got it looks like some Navy SEALs running down that,
this is we did a SEAL deployment training. We had to get certified to be able to deploy Navy SEALs, and part of that is they wanted to come down to the boat. So they decided to fast rope in there, hop on down, and they wanted to practice taking their rib boats, hauling them up through the forward escape trunk, hand over hand, loading it up with fuel, filling them up with air, and launching them off the back of the boat. So
that doesn't look very stealthy to me. That picture looks like that would attract a lot of attention.
No, but I did get into a chicken puck eating competition with one of those SEALs, and I'm proud to say that I ate 32 chicken pucks that day.
Why am I not surprised by that? Sonar Tech out eating a SEAL. Yeah, there's a shocker.
Yeah, showers as well.
So what'd you like about it? What'd you enjoy about it? What attracted you to sonar, and what did you like about it?
So for sonar, you're the eyes and the ears of the boat. You're primarily like the first thing of what's going on. When you're on mission or when you're out doing anything, you know everything that's going on between the contacts that are there, the surface ships, the merchants, possible submarines, everything else. And you have to, unlike a lot of engineering rates or a lot of different other rates, you have to think outside the box. You have to be able to interpret the data that's coming in. And even though they try to write procedures down for those, there's no set procedure that can actually tell you, hey, that's the merchant, or hey, that's a submarine. So I like that skill about it. And then I also liked, you're in a small little group there in the sonar shack. So a lot of hijinks and everything going on in there, camaraderie. So, and then with you being on a fast boat, you actually get to do some of the cool stuff.
My favorite line of sonar was reported contact as biologics. The captain, I just happened to be standing in control, as I often did. So gets on the MC circuit there and says, if that's biologic, I'll eat it.
Yeah,
we got a correction to the show. We got a correction to the show. This is actually the third fast attack guy.
Oh, no.
Remember, we had the dentist, Jamie Ferguson.
Oh, that's true.
Another sonar tech.
We had fourth. We had Ryan Ramsey. And so it doesn't matter.
That's UK. Yeah, that doesn't count.
So for me, I guess the fascination with sonar, and I did hang out in sonar quite a bit, was I'm an audiophile. Obviously, I ended up in radio and that sort of thing. But what was it? I mean, it's more art, I guess, than science is what I'm trying to say. And that always fascinated me.
There's definitely a small art to it. Not everyone can sit there and listen or pick apart the frequencies to say and memorize and be able to put all two and two together to come with an accurate picture of what's going on out there in the ocean. So,
all right, what's the weirdest thing you ever heard? Because sonar techs have stories about weird stuff that they heard.
So there's all kinds of weird fish, of course. We got the boing fish. I was going around we had to go around Africa. We ran into the Chrysler fish. We called it that because every time that you heard it, it was so we named it the Chrysler fish.
That's
so
crazy.
No UFOs or underwater aliens or anything.
That's what I'm getting at.
No
fast movers. Nothing that you one place and then it just swings right by it. A couple thousand miles an hour underwater.
No underwater UFO bases detected here.
No megalodons, because those are supposed to be big off South Africa.
Right.
Did you see what I said? Big off South Africa. Anyway.
I was going to say the sonar shack on the Lafayette class type submarines, the 41 Freedom. I mean, the broadband, and it had the big wheel. So I don't think you guys must have had a different system, Busy 1 or Busy 2. I can't remember what they called it, but we basically had a World War II type sonar shack. It wasn't much upgraded from that.
Oh, it would absolutely blow your mind now with the processing and everything that they do. Going away from the old legacy sonars, like you said, the green screens and swiping the pros. They've integrated more of a computer server-based ARCI, acoustic rapid COTS, so commercial off-the-shelf insertion systems where they're able to just program and swap things out on the fly and develop the sonar processing a lot faster. So our detection ranges have gone out. The granularity of which you're able to see frequencies and everything is much higher. And the audio isn't as great. So Dave, the comps and having that analog audio is gone. So now we're more of a digital audio system. So I don't appreciate that as much anymore, but you don't need the headphones much anyways.
Well, it's got to save on your ears.
Right.
A little bit.
Man,
anyway.
It was just kind of cool just turning the wheel a little bit at a time. I just enjoyed. I was a broadband. I qualified it just to sit in the shack with the boys and had some fun on the Grant.
Right.
It was good times. I mean, I like being. Yeah, sonar techs are cool, even though we make fun of them. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Everyone likes a good shower.
Yes, they do. My favorite sonar tech story. We had a second class sonar tech who had a wife that was just, she was smoking hot. And halfway through the patrol, he comes out of the bunk room and he's just standing there. He's got his Walkman, because this is that era, with a cassette tape. And he's just got this stunned look on his face. And his wife, I guess, had made him, let's just call it a special tape.
A mixtape.
For Valentine's Day, I think, as we were out, and he was blown away, and he didn't know what to do. And people are like, "Well, let me explain it to you." So, anyway, that was quite the day. You obviously enjoyed it. You ended up on recruiting duty.
I did.
We've all heard the stories of the recruiters. How do you tell when a recruiter's lying? Their lips move. We all hate our recruiters. I can't even remember mine's name. Don't even have a clue. So,
well, before we get into that, I want to stay with one Toledo just a second, because you had a legendary captain, which I thought this was fake. So there was a photo that went out on the internet, I don't know, about a year or so ago, maybe before that, of a guy fishing off the back of a Los Angeles class submarine. I always thought that thing was Photoshop. Tell us a little bit about that captain, what he was like, and the fact that photo was real. I mean, he was actually doing that. So Captain John Schneider was a bit of a gunslinger, a little bit of a cowboy, more pirate, I would say. I think he thought he was a pirate. He got really excited when talking about pirates. He was quite a bit go against the grain. As long as we get the mission done, the mission's done. Party hard. There's a couple instances. One that I could think of, we were out in Liberty Port, Diego Garcia, and we were the first submarine to pull in there. We was kind of doing a proof of concept of that you could do it a mid deployment refit kind of maintenance period. So we pulled in there before the Ohio classes started pulling in. We're out there, and if you go to Diego Garcia, it's nothing but a small island, and there's probably a dozen bars on that place. And so we went out one night, and we're all the crews out there partying, and he calls me over, "Chaney, come on over here." So I go to the bar, and he's like, "Take this," and he hands me a shot. And we take it, and he says, "All right, now we're running." So we take off down through the woods, running through the jungle up to the next bar. I said, "Captain, I got you." Fed up next to the bar. I said, "Captain." Was this like a surprise thing?
This was 100%.
You didn't really have a relationship with the captain other than, "Hey, Captain, here's some, this is what's going on."
We did. If I was to backtrack, my first time actually talking with the man, we were in Pensacola, and we're at one of the Seville quarters, the big bar that's out there. And he said, "Chaney, what the F are you doing?" And I said, nothing, sir." He's like, "How come you're not drinking?" I said, "I'm under 21. I got X's on my hands." He said,
"Oh my gosh."
He said, "Put your hand in your pocket," and hands me a drink. And I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of my career. But so we're there in Diego Garcia, and he calls me back on over, and he said, we're doing the drink and run. And that's what we did all the way down to the bus stop. And I saw him the next morning. He was looking a little rough. But anyways, for the picture, he was from Michigan. He was a fisherman by trade, I guess. His family background was fisherman.
Right.
So he brought out his long pole and he had his chair sitting in there, and he went up topside and he had the bullhorn and he had the fishing pole, and he just yelling at the junior officer of the deck, telling them which way to go, which way he thought they were running, just fishing off the back of the boat for about an hour. And then he started calling up guys one at a time, and one of the sailors, STS-2 Brian Gay, he's like, hey, congratulations, you're gonna be a dad, and was handing out Cuban cigars. And then the rest of us came up and did a swim call. But while he was sitting out at the back, one of the guys came up and to the forward escape trunk, snapped.
Well, yeah, because it looks like it was underway, right?
Like, oh yeah, 100% underway.
So, was there any reaction to that when you guys got back? I mean, the squadron.
That was 2006. You know, it wasn't the offset with the reviewing the photos and everything coming on off the boat as stringent as it is now. You know, we don't have the cell phone.
Yeah, before smartphones. Yeah,
smartphones weren't prevalent. So
yeah, that's man, that guy just sounds like a cowboy. Just because most nuclear trained officers are more kind of all official by the book, and some of them are relaxed or something. But I never seen one like that. I mean, he's like Indiana Jones on that boat or something.
He was. We had this. I don't know if I want to tell this one, but I will. We had he had the 3 P's on pizza nights. So you had pizza, porn, and poker. And so in the wardroom there was porn going on, and there was poker going on, there was pizza going on the wardroom TV. And I would go in there as a young STS-3 Captain Sir. On my watch, I held 5 merchant contacts. Oh my goodness. So
this guy,
he kind of went on his own drum there, and we kind of got some of the short end of the stick when it came to port calls, I think, because of his relationship with squadron.
So this is how your perception of the Navy now. You're down at Toledo. You got this amazing captain doing crazy swaggery things. And then you go to recruiting duty.
And I go to recruiting duty.
Yeah.
And I get that
function in your head, right?
Right.
That reality.
Culture shock of this is big Navy and this is how things really are. I'm like, oh man, what's going on here? So I'm pretty sure we put in when I was an active duty recruiter, we would used to go out to the strip clubs in uniform and talk to the strippers. Next thing you know, they're in the NOSC in Louisville. So NOSC Louisville, you're welcome. That we put in all those beautiful women for you to join the Navy. A lot of single moms out there. But while I was also out there, the op tempo and you kind of had to be able to talk to people. And so we did a lot of drinking. And then I wound up eventually going out. We made gold for the first time and went out to celebrate, some of us. And sure enough, I had the blue lights behind me and had my first DUI. So I was a frock first class. I just made it off the test. Had to deal with the captain's mask and the embarrassment of getting bumped down. Unfortunately, I only got knocked down to second. They just took away my advancement. And since I couldn't drive a government vehicle anymore, they sent me up to the MEPS. I became a classifier. So I was putting people back in the Navy again, but I was convincing them. And that's where the real lie goes. It's not so much the recruiter. Recruiters can't lie much. Everything's on the internet nowadays. It's a classifier when you tell them, hey, cook is the best job in the Navy. Let me tell you why the cook's the best job. And you convince them. So, but I was successful. I wound up being a classifier of the year out there and getting promoted back to first class and then out to my next tour.
So let's go there then. The next tour is the USS Houston.
Yep.
Which is famous for playing the USS Dallas in the Hunt for Red October.
That's correct. And that's the USS Houston that does the famous emergency blow there in the movie.
Right.
I forgot about that. Wow.
Oh, Houston and Dallas, they're kind of close. I mean,
yeah. But I got out there. We were out in Guam, so I'm right back in that party element. Guam's you're away from the Eye of Sauron, and the Lord of the Rings kind of reference there. You're away from the White Tower. So we partied. Guys go out and Guam boat, you're tip of the spear. So every time that you go out, you come back in, you never know when you're going back out. So you always kind of partied it up. The whole crew, had a very strong party atmosphere, but it was also we get the job done when the mission's on the line, we get it done. And that's what we did. Did a change of home port to Hawaii. Again, another successful career. I was Sailor of the Year twice. I qualified dive as a first class, and I got selected for chief. And I had an awesome chief's mess.
How'd you make first class off the test?
No, I got promoted from MEPS.
So you got promoted then?
Yeah, I did the double whammy of get the DUI, get knocked down, and then get meritoriously promoted.
So this was different times. I mean, for the because I don't know much about the Navy. I kind of got an idea because I knew guys that retired around 2007. Marty retired 2012 or something. Well, yeah. So the Navy was just different. So you're right. It was always high tempo, work hard, play hard. And when we say work hard, play hard, it's exactly that. Right. So you got very high caliber performing sailors, doing amazing things, stuff we can never talk about. And then the stress of it, you need to relieve. So and I did the same thing. I was involved in a lot of drinking and hell raising, and that's how we let it out. Right. And just hang with the guys. There was such a strong brotherhood and connection with that. But I think the Navy made a change in culture and started cracking down on.
They started with the "Don't Be That Guy" campaign, and they started really trying to push on the alcohol image of the Navy, the drunken sailor, and the whole. I think the business model of the Navy started to shift, and you got to think in the past 10, 15 years we've had sexual assault cases, you've had sexual abuse cases, you've had all these different things coming down, the cheating, the drug tests, even the SEALs right now with the steroids and everything, that there's always this constant spotlight that's on the Navy. And so they've kind of, you got to do the public image aspect of things. And so everything started to change. And, that drinking, partying atmosphere started to go away. The guys that were putting in the Navy, they don't go out, they video game, they do different things than what we did. And so the culture changed.
Was that a function of availability or actual culture? I mean, when I was in, my son laughs at me because the PCs that were available when I was in was the TRS-80. We didn't have computers. We didn't have video games. We didn't have that stuff. We had the VHS machine was brand new.
Yeah, it could be.
Culture, is it a culture change or is it a technology change?
I think culture change within the Navy of saying, hey, we don't want this image. We don't, we're a business. We're in the business of war. We're in the business of doing a mission, which has always been. It's just how we did the mission and how the mission got done. And then I know from recruiting, during 2008, you had the recession, 2009, 2010, we were putting in people at record numbers. And so the Navy and the Coast Guard and everyone else started to raise their standard of the person that's coming into ASVAB scores had to be higher. So I think you're getting a overall better qualified candidate and a better overall sailor and everything of that aspect. That those guys, they're more studious. They did better in school. They weren't the partiers or going out and drink all night and show up into work the next day.
But submariners, even going back to the beginning of the nuclear program, late 50s, early 60s, everybody still had to score high on ASVAB. Right. Well, I don't even know what the entrance test was back in the 60s, but still, to be a submariner on a nuclear submarine, you still had to be a what would you call it, a highly classified sailor, or
highly qualified.
Qualified, because the ASVAB is not just one score. Everybody just likes to quote one score. I made an 82 or I aced it, right? But it's actually a spectrum.
It's a composite score.
Can you go into that? Explain that a little bit detailed, just like
sure. So your base score, your 82, your 65s, your 55s. That's a combination of your reading, writing, arithmetic, and math knowledge. And so two of those scores, your reading and writing, get combined together to be what's called a verbal score, or your VE score. And that gets put in with your arithmetic and math knowledge. And that comes out with your ASVAB score, that 65. But there's other parts, you have your your mechanical knowledge, you have your electrical knowledge, your coding speeds, and all these different factors that qualify into a line score. So to be a sonar tech, you have to have these different scores and all these different categories of the test to be above a certain mark to be qualified to be within the sonar field, or to be a missile tech, or to be a nuke.
So that's what I was meaning about classifying, is that's how you would get classified for rates. Because, well, I mean, by then the computers are getting more advanced. It probably automatically generated rates based on the scores.
It's partially that, it's partially availability.
Yeah, availability. So that's interesting.
It's always been availability.
That's always availability.
That's how you end up as an FTB in the early 80s. Yeah, that's what we need. So
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
You do this recruiting stuff. You go back to the Houston, you have this high tempo, and you've mentioned a couple of times that you have a DUI. It's very hard partying. It's very, very, a lot of drinking. Eric has talked about that. For me, I didn't start drinking until I'd been out of the Navy for almost 15 years. So at the time I was the designated driver. I would go with all you guys and make sure you got home safe back in those days. But talk a little bit about that. Tell me why you feel like that started and where it really became a problem.
Yeah, I don't really know where it started. I just know when it started to get bad. After the Houston, I made chief. I wound up being a PMT, performance monitoring team in San Diego. And then, I don't know, I just had more free time. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I found myself drinking a lot more. And I found myself, thinking, I was like, man, I probably need to start slowing down or having a problem. And I never really addressed it, and it's something that, I had liberty incidences on the Houston. I had liberty incidences on the Toledo, and it's always followed me along. But being a high performer, it kind of got swept on the rug, or it just got washed away. And I would get the stern talking to, like, hey, you need to watch how much you're doing. Yeah, I got you. I'm good. But eventually it became a problem. And it led to me getting kicked out. After PMT, I headed off to sub school to go to C school for the Master Sonar Technician program. It's the LCPO school. And I wound up getting another alcohol-related incident there that cost me my career. And that had a lot of negative effects on me. I wound up I went to the mass, and then there's an incredible weight that burden that I knew that, hey, my career's over. I got recommended for separation. And so now here I am as this chief that I'm getting kicked out. And I have a wife, I have 2 kids, I have, rent, I have car payments, all these bills. And, how many people did I let down? I let Uncle Marty down, I let my dad down, I let my wife and my kids down. And it got tough and it got dark.
It's a lot of weight.
Yeah, it is.
You said something that, really sticks out with me. It's just, because this is like the darker side. So, I mean, this is going to be like a special podcast, because I think it's something that both Dave and I wanted to address at some point. We just didn't know how to get into it. But, I mean, I kind of had the same thing, being a high performer. I mean, to this day, there's people that still say I'm some kind of legend down there at No2. But, it's I didn't get a DUI or anything. It's just I got in a car accident on the way to work, and but the night before I had been drinking, so I probably was hungover. But the guy did pull out right in front of me, and it was a serious car accident. I mean, I had my NASA badge, and it was actually Cape Canaveral, but it shattered it in a million pieces. The guys went. I had the whole command, because we're still a whole brotherhood. Right. And the thing is No2, I'm sure it's straightened out and different now, but No2 was just a party command. Everybody was doing a little bit of trouble, and I'm not going to say any names because I don't see anything. But I mean, I found chiefs and I never saw any officers, but I just saw people that were really surprised you doing, like you were saying, all the different things from alcohol and drugs and stuff, and it really opened my eyes. And I never went to a strip bar until I got stationed at that command. and I just got tied up into it. And getting that car accident, they took me off my submarine call away, and then the med board, of course, I ended up getting separated. Same thing. So I started drinking heavier and heavier because Navy was all I knew, and I'm sure that was the same thing for you. And it's yeah, you feel like you do let a lot of people down, and letting yourself down. And I wanted, probably like you, I wanted to stay forever, and I ended up drinking so bad because I started increasing from beer to the hard alcohol, and I got a bacteria infection. And I went to the hospital, and they said I was literally hours away from where they couldn't reverse the shutting down of my system from the infection that I was getting. And that was my wake-up call to stop.
Right.
And luckily, I had a lot of good people in my life that were working on me through my church at the time. They had actually started working with me 2-3 years before that. And that for me, God just took over. But I also used counseling and VA did. And you wanted to talk about that. Can you tell me what your experience is like? So you're going,
sure.
You're just getting separated, and what kind of happened there?
So I'm getting separated, and you put on the uniform every day, and I just look at myself and say, I don't deserve this. I don't. Why am I? And just got real negative, and I couldn't. It was hard to face other people, and then they knew, what had happened. They knew the full story. And all the people that it's just, and I just started having the strong suicidal ideations and everything. And I, of course, I just said, quit drinking. I did, the SARP and everything, and I got separated. And I was fortunate that, I fell into a pretty good job there in San Diego. I was doing the KMRCs and the maintenance cards for the Navy. I was doing it for the Sonar Techs. I was reviewing those, making changes when sailors say, hey, this stuff is wrong.
Was that a government job, or
it was a contractor for the government.
So
that was pretty good. But I was still drinking. If I had an opportunity, I would still drink. It's not, like you said, it's not just I'm going to have a beer. It's I have a bottle, and this whole bottle's going down right now. And so it's a vicious cycle when you do it. Anyone that's drank and has quit drinking knows that it's hard to climb out of it. And so I feel like I was about rock bottom. My marriage was on the rocks. I didn't know it was going to be separated or anything like that. And then eventually, I started to seek help at the VA. Anxiety or PTSD. And one of the odd things, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, when it comes to anxiety, when the counselor said to me, he said, you're so used to being in such a close quarters all the time that when you get out in front of people, you get in these large crowds, that's when you start to feel this tense and the surrounding that surrounds you. And that kind of made sense to me. But, so I got help. I got medication. And, I'm sober now for 2 years and a day. So I just roll past that mark there. And, life couldn't be better. So, and then
it's not easy quitting either. It's difficult. I remember my first 6 months getting the heebie-jeebies and just, it was just torture. Luckily, I had a good job too, but they had me on an evening shift. So that was during, that was normally when you would drink.
Right.
So taking the evening shift. Yeah.
You got to find different paths home. Got to know where the liquor stores aren't, so you don't drive past them on your way home, those type of things. But
the interesting thing that happened to me, because I don't want people to look at this as an individual problem. It was just everybody around me would drink, so that just made the opportunity to want to drink because all your brothers were drinking.
Right.
When I mean brothers on the boat, but when I quit and stopped, and I went back to church, all those same two brothers, even though I was out, those guys were getting commissions. Marty was one of them too. There was other guys that got nursing programs. I was in line to go on that too. I could have been an officer as well. But I was going, yeah.
I was in
line. But the thing is, they supported me. Well, I was just saying that the cool thing was they actually supported me not drinking. They wouldn't let me go because they were still doing their stupid stuff like we've already gone over the type of thing sailors do. They say, no, you're not coming down here. We'll kick your butt and all this stuff, which is really cool. So, we're dysfunctional, but submariners are highly functional at the same time. If I get it. Yeah.
And resilient.
So what was the VA able to do for you when you walked in that door?
You know, they sent me down. They called, made the appointment. They called and they said, all right, you know, this is how we do it. They said, for the mental health screenings and those things, we can either give you medication or you can see counseling. I said, you know what? Let's just start off with both. Let's start with the counseling, then let's do the medication. And I was going to counseling for a few weeks, and you know, until I felt that the medication was helping me overcome some of my anxieties that I was feeling. You know, my wife was like, I couldn't go out to Walmart. You know, I get tense, I get irritable, I couldn't do certain things. You know, but when it comes to suicide, I didn't seek help with the VA for suicide. That's something that I just kind of had to pull myself through, that I couldn't lose. I couldn't face, you know, think of myself being dead and having my kids having no father left, or, you know, my wife having to take care of them, or, you know, my family, what are they going to do and how they wouldn't be able to ever cope with it, be able to handle it.
At what point in your career did you get, I didn't mean to interrupt, but at what point did you get married?
I got married in 2014.
So it was towards the end of your career that you got married?
Oh, yeah.
So this sounds like an amazing person that stuck it out, even though you felt like you disappointed her and let her down
every day.
I mean, this sounds like quite the lady, you know, just the support and stay by your side, which is really important. It's kind of like we're saying, when you got to have a supporting team, you know, like your brother supporting you, your wife supporting you. So the VA, you know, you went and start talking to counseling, or did you call the hotline?
Did counseling, just one-on-one counseling. They offered group counseling if I wanted it. I'm not a big fan of groups, but you know, to each their own, whatever works for them. But they gave me all the options and complete support to be able to overcome, you know, all my problems. So
we tend to associate PTSD with combat injuries, you know, Vietnam era veterans, Korea era veterans, and operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. But you said something interesting in your emails about dealing with PTSD because of and this is something that I've personally seen and struggled for myself over time. There is an element of, I'm not sure what the word for it is. I guess it is that high tempo compression in your activity, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore. And I don't know if I missed that or if it just messed me up. Right. There are times where I don't know,
or both,
what the answer is. Yeah, or both. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I
mean, you think about it too. I mean, you think about all the different small things that happen. Like, you know, if you're a missile tech, you're responsible when you're standing there next to a nuclear warhead.
I am not a missile tech.
No, you're rubbing something real bad there, Jesse. You got to watch that.
So, and then, you know, for myself, you're responsible for different things, or if you're a dive or chief of watch, there's all kinds of things. You know, we've had flooding coming in through the head valve, you know, and start to sink out, or you're doing the drills and those type of things that, you know, that it can impact some people, you know, and it impacts us all differently in how we respond to the stress.
Do you have the dreams? Because I still have the dreams where the ship is completely flooded.
I have dreams where it does barrel rolls.
Yeah, where it's the lights are on. I'm still swimming through it.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, that's weird. I don't, because I had the same dreams, and you're right. Talking to other shipmates, a lot of people have dreams of, you know, the boat going down, and I wonder what creates that. I mean, was it the movies we watched, perhaps, or just being on the boat?
I can't speak for anybody else. I can tell you, for me, it was the more information. When I was in 81 to 91. So at that time, it wasn't well known. Now you have reams of information, trenchants of information, as the Navy says, about what happened to Thresher, which was still, when I was there, it was still less than a generation old. Right. And reading some of that stuff, I mean, that stuff gives me freaking nightmares. And I can't emphasize this enough. You know, we talk about, oh, it imploded and they never felt it, because, you know, it's like 0.08 seconds or something from implosion to you're gone. But that ignores the 15, 20 minutes before that, when they knew what was going to happen. So for me, that every year in April, I just get really heebie-jeebied.
Man, I'm getting just
Yeah.
thinking about it. Ah.
When I learned, and it's only been a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years since I learned this. When I learned that they found a body just outside of the escape trunk of Scorpion when they were diving on it, and they're so nonchalant about it in the reports. It's like, damn, they knew what was going on. That's the kind of stuff that bothers me, especially when I go back to my own experience with the fire and it wasn't really a fire, but the explosion and stuff like that. And it's like, at the time you're trained, you go through it, you're high performing, you're compressed, you know what you're doing. It's only afterwards that it really starts to bother you. And it's just a question of when that happens. Is it right then? Is it 5 years later? Is it 10 years later? And how do you deal with it? If you deal with it by crawling inside of a bottle, do you deal with it by becoming violent? Do you deal with it by becoming withdrawn? What's the answer there? And, like I said, there's a lot of discussion about wounded veterans and wounded warriors, but there are a lot of wounds that aren't really talked about because they weren't, quote unquote, combat.
Right. So there's one organization that I like to give a small plug to. It's climb4.org. It's, if you want to know the website, it's climbtac4.org. It's a 100% to the veteran organization, and they outfit veterans with a full backpack tent, cooking system to be able to go out into nature, go out on hikes, do different things. And they're constantly sending out veterans and doing retreats for anxiety and PTSD. The woman that created it, she was actually a recruit that I helped put into the Navy, and one of her friends had committed suicide. And so she dealt with a lot of the effects and everything after that, how it affected her, that she decided to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And in doing so, she found this release. And before then, she was, a heavy alcoholic and drinking, those type things. And so she kind of inspired her to come up with this nonprofit organization to be able to spread the word of, getting out in the outdoors and finding another activity to be able to kind of address those things. So
I think the most important part of that is just recognizing that you need to talk to somebody. You need to help with that stuff. And it doesn't have to be incapacitating. It can be useful to just talk to somebody. I found, we did a reunion, gosh, it's been 5 years ago now. And just that, sitting around talking with people that were there, was tremendously calming to me.
It's a weight off your shoulders. Talking about this now is one of the first times I've ever talked about this in such a wide setting, and it's a relief, to be able to help or be able to spread the word and be able to recognize, hey, I'm not the only one that this happens to.
No, you're not the only one. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the lotto. It's just some guys get to retire, but they were doing just as bad. It's just they didn't get caught. Right. Is how. And that's, that's what trigger. So people listen to this podcast, I think it's very important though. If you think you need to talk, you can reach out to the VA now. I didn't even know they had this. It's kind of like 911. You can dial 988 on your phone and select option 1. You can also go up into the right corner of the va.gov website. You'll see a red banner. Talk to a crisis counselor right now. And you can open up a chat and you can talk to them. And I actually did that one time. It was a few years ago. Because sometimes something just triggers in you and you just need to talk, but it's confidential. You don't have to give your name or anything. You talk like that, but you can definitely get the help you need. And I recommend, instead of just letting that all stew and create those tendencies to where you want to end your life. And I had a friend of mine on the Canopus. He shot himself with my own first shotgun that my dad bought me, believe it or not. I mean, he's just a close guy. It's just weird. It seems like it's the same story, it's just different boats, different people.
Every time.
And just a lot of this stuff goes on. But yeah, definitely reach out and get the help. And there's different organizations like that. And we'll try to find a list of good. Maybe you can help me out with that. After the show, we'll get a good list of organizations we can put down for veterans to go out there and do, like you were saying, go out into nature and relax a little bit, So yeah, we all served our country, and it was an honor. whether it ends bad for us, it's still, you did it. You made the call. When others didn't want to go out and serve, you did it. Not only you did it, I mean, you did an amazing job on a fast attack. I mean, I saw you got a rack of ribbons. Most boomer sailors are lucky to get 2 rows. I mean, I'm seeing guys with 5, 6 rows now. It's crazy, with the war going on.
Is he going to do this ribbon thing again? Ribbons are great, but you know what's better? Letters of commendation, especially signed by admirals. Those don't go on your chest, but they do a lot of good. So, Jesse, tell me what you do now. What's life for Jesse Chaney out of the Navy?
Oh, it's great.
2 years on.
Now my day consists of getting up in the morning. I go out to the gym. That's my relief of the day. I get in early in the morning. I run, lift some weights, come home, get the kids up, get them fed, get to have that morning conversation with them in the morning, and take them off to school. And then I now work as a system administrator for a local bank, doing IT work. And I get home and do coach baseball or Cub Scouts, and I get to be a better husband and a better father to my kids, and then just get out and recreate here in wonderful Colorado.
So it does get better.
It does get better.
That's the important lesson for all this, folks. Make sure that if you're feeling any of those things, check in with the VA or your church or whoever. Find that help, and if all else fails, call us. We'll get you in contact with someone about it. So we're still the Sub Vets podcast, and that means, Eric, what's going on over there?
Well, as always, we're posting the news every day on the Facebook group. So you can go on to Facebook.com/group/the Sub Vet, or you could go on to Twitter feed, which again, I like to say, I'm kind of enjoying Twitter. Elon Musk, he's on there causing trouble. Well, I'm causing trouble with submarines, but nobody's really seeing it. But no, I post the news on there every day. So you can go on there and comment. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Dave's got the podcast is on all the major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple. What's another one, Dave? Give me
Anchor,
some other ones.
Google Play.
Yeah, it's
iTunes.
on.
It's everywhere.
Heck, you probably might even ask Amazon to help you out. And boom,
it probably is on Amazon.
So well, as always, we got the gold back. That's my new exciting thing. There's changes coming up. I got exciting news I'm going to be releasing about the gold back. Go on the website. It's already there for sale. And if you need to, you can contact me too. And we can talk about if you want to buy a bigger amount of gold backs, we can talk about that as well. But
check out what I'm doing at Plausibly Live or the DaveBowmanShow.com. Either one of those two will get you to where I'm at. And in the meantime, Jesse, thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys
for that important and hopefully inspiring story. And if folks are out there that hear that need that.
I found something interesting too while we're doing that, Dave. I mean, watching Jesse talk about a story, I can tell him, kind of reliving the memory, but at the end, he's smiling. So I wanted to point out there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And just him talking on his podcast, the same thing as talking to somebody. Get that weight off your shoulders. Don't let it just sit there. And I'm Eric at thesubvet.com.
And I'm Dolphin Dave at slipperyfish.com. And we are
the Sub Vets. Something like that.